The one with the inappropriate sister is the 10th episode of the 5th season of Friends. This is directed by Dana de Vally Piazza, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And with this one, I have my notes grouped by part of the narrative. Sometimes I'll go through things chronologically, but with this one, we have some overlap, but we do have clear parts of the narrative. And personal highlights include the creation of Fireball and also the inappropriate behaviour with Danny and his sister. Not because I like the inappropriate behaviour, but because I loved everybody's reaction, and I'll talk more about that in a moment. It starts off with Ross organising the fridge, and I cannot hear the word expired product without hearing Ross saying it the way he does. I absolutely love it. Ross is bored, so Joey helps him to learn to relax, and they then prank Chandler. We then have part of the narrative focusing on Phoebe, and Phoebe is collecting donations and people keep throwing things into the donation bucket that they shouldn't be. It was quite nice, although it's just a small part of the narrative. It was quite nice to be outdoors. We don't spend that much time outside with friends. I don't have a problem with that, but it's just nice every now and then to be outside, out in the open. And obviously, if this encourages anybody to donate money to a donation bucket, then that's a pretty good thing as well. Definitely, I think the smallest part of the narrative, but I liked it well enough, and I think it was a position that suited Phoebe really well, even if things didn't go according to her plan. Joey is also feeling a little bit lost, not in the same way that Ross is, but Joey is not sure what his next moves are because he didn't get a part that he was up for, and Ross suggests that he makes something happen for himself. And I love this, especially if you're in the creative industries. So much of your career is dictated by being in the right place at the right time. And if you can take steps to actually make that right time and right place happen for you, that's pretty great. And this is what we get with, well, an attempt at what we get with Ross encouraging Joey to write his own play. And it starts off well. Joey is quite enthusiastic. He's writing about a suspicious character. And then he starts to feel like it's just not going anywhere. And Ross becomes a little bit controlling. Honestly, treats Joey a bit like a child. He demands that he has to do his 5 pages before he's allowed to do anything else. And yes, that level of discipline is great. Speaking as a writer, I do have occasions like that where I have to write a certain number of words or pages a day or a week or whatever it is. And it is beneficial to have those mini goals, but not when somebody is constantly breathing down your neck. And Chandler and Joey decide to give Joey a bit of a distraction by creating Fireball, which is an absolute joy and very dangerous, but one of my favourite parts of this episode for sure. And I love how this part also played out, Joey's part of the narrative, because he does end up finishing his script, and he asks Ross and Chandler if they will read it out so he can hear it come to life, and they do. And we quickly realise that he's written dialogue for Ross and Chandler to apologise for how they were treating everybody over the last few days with Joey and the screenplay, and I thought that was really lovely. I also love hearing Chandler and Ross reading out the script. It sounds really wooden, very badly acted. That's intentional, of course, and I just think it's very, very entertaining. Really enjoyed that. I think there are some great moments with Joey, and definitely I think some motivation there if you are in Joey's position, but also some really beneficial points if you're the Ross of this story. There are definitely wrong ways to approach the situation. And then we come to Danny. I'll be honest, never really cared for Danny as a character. I've never disliked him. I just found him to be kind of underwhelming as a character. But Rachel is still interested in him, and in Central Perk, Monica asks Danny to go out on a date with Rachel, and he agrees. But before this date, Rachel sees him with another woman. And we get a bit of suspense for a little bit. I think it's fair that, well, I suppose it's in the title, so maybe not, but I think it would be reasonable to assume that this was another woman, another date, as Rachel did. And then we find out that Danny doesn't want to invite Rachel back into his apartment after their date because his sister is there. But Rachel meets her anyway, and they are being very close to each other in a way that grown-up siblings usually aren't. And Rachel voices this concern to Monica and Ross, who say they don't wrestle now. They did as children, but not now. And we get to see things escalate on 2 occasions. In the first one, and this is the scene I absolutely love, they're in Central Perk, and Danny drops some food on his crotch, and his sister immediately starts wiping it. Definitely inappropriate for most of us, and I just love everybody's individual reactions. I thought it was very well done. And then Rachel goes to see Danny in his apartment, and his sister is in the bath waiting for him. And I feel like, yeah, that would be... The crotch thing is awkward, but not the end of the world. But the bath thing, I think, is definitely a step too far. And as somebody who's not that bothered about Danny, I'm able to enjoy this part of the episode without thinking, oh, that's such a shame that Rachel doesn't want to date him anymore. I definitely don't feel like there's any loss there, and the comedy there is definitely brilliant. So I think this is a great episode. Takeaways for me, the biggest highlights are definitely Danny and his sister in Central Perk, and the creation of Fireball. And I also think Joy's screenplay writing can be quite motivational as well. The one with the inappropriate sister is a brilliant episode. It's also nice to have a little bit of a break from Monica and Chandler's relationship. Not that I don't like it. I do. I think it's a very strong part of this season. But we have had quite a lot of focus on their relationship in this episode, this season rather. And by giving it a bit of a break, we're allowing that part of the narrative to stretch out further across the season, and that allows us to hold on to that suspense of who's going to find out next. Will anybody ever find out about them, other than Joey, of course? And I think that that's a really good decision, rather than just throwing it all in the first couple of episodes. But it's not too long before we get back into their relationship. But I really enjoyed this episode. I think the one with the inappropriate sister is actually one of the more light-hearted episodes. In a while, we have had quite a lot of heavy, deep episodes. So it's nice to have something that's just a little bit lighter, still very enjoyable.